Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of Where I Went Wrong. Let me say that again. Let me see. Where I Went Wrong. And in this edition, I'll be covering UFC 265, Luque versus Gane. So this card actually was not a bad card for me. Actually pretty decent, actually pretty good. Not superb, not stellar, but good. I went 8-5 for this card, and 8-5 is pretty good to be honest. Unless you just like some novice, you just like think everything's supposed to be perfect on stuff. 8-5 is pretty good. Especially if you consider that all the fights that I really was super strong on went almost freakishly perfect. So good card, but I did have a couple glaring errors on this card, and this card really could have been an easy cakewalk card for me, and like a card where I did look super phenomenal on the card, but I made some mistakes, and like sometimes even the best make amateurish mistakes, and I made a couple on this card as far as picking fights. So let's get into it. So in our first fight, we had in the bantamweight division. The first 4 fights I got right. The method I think was off in all of them, but all the first 4 fights I got right. Munoz Jr. versus Simmons looked just as I expected. A second round submission instead of a second round TKO. Gatto versus and then in the next fight we had in the flyweight division, Melissa Gatto versus Victoria Leonardo. And I picked it a first round submission, but it was a second round TKO, but really a third round injury, but she cannot come out to the third round. Like with second round injury, she cannot come out to the third round. So it was a TKO for Leonardo. I expected her grappling to look better, but she kind of was a more submission over position person, and that could have been an easier fight for her, at least less spectacular, not a finish, but probably would have made her control the fight more. And probably the submission would have came maybe in the second round if she would have fought some more smart. But her striking did look much improved. And I even said that Leonardo's striking isn't the greatest of striking. So if Gatto come in with some decent striking or some decent work, any little bit of work to that and put some time in that, she can outstrike her. And she was able to do that relatively easily. But as far as for both women, I feel like, Leonardo's probably going to be seeing the exit sign pretty soon. And Gatto on the side, I wasn't all too impressed with performance. Like I said, valuing submission over position, I feel like it's going to cost her against the better woman in the division. And yes, she might have a win over what's her name? I forget her name right now, but she has a win over one of the better women upcoming in this division. But as far as her skill set right now and valuing submission over position instead of position to get to the submission or just control and dominance, I feel that's gonna cause her to slip up and lose a lot of fights. But again, it's her first fight in like 3 years, so can't knock it against her too much. But also at the same time, it's still something to take note of. And I'm not all that impressed with her. Good win. If she should win, but not all that impressed. But I guess you look at the bright side, her striking has improved. So if she already has solid grappling, then you get your striking improved. That's a good thing. So improved the weakest area of her game, which was her striking. So kudos to her. But I'm not all that high on her off that performance. Then in our next fight, we had in the bantamweight division, Johns versus Dos Santos. Very high on Johns in this one. Just went out there. I thought he would wrestle more. I picked him to win. He won. I thought he would wrestle more. Not the most, but maybe mixing a takedown or two. But I don't need a single takedown. Just picked apart Dos Santos and then knocked him out in the third round. So look real clean. I definitely think he can make waves in this division, but definitely not ready for the upper echelon just yet of this division. Maybe ready for like top 15 and then work his way to top 10, but top 5 and really even top 10 at this moment, not too shooken by that performance. They're impressed, but ain't too worried about him just yet. But still got some more work to do, but definitely on the right track. Dos Santos on the side, gotta go back to the gym, work with some things. Still good enough to stick around in the division. Still a solid fighter, but still very much in the. Well, he got knocked out and got knocked down a couple steps, but still pretty much where he was at before. But on the other side of a highlight reel knockout, but still a solid guy, but not saying anything upward for him or anything too positive for his career at the moment. Coming off a performance where he had nothing even really remotely good to say about that performance. He got outclassed and knocked out, so not a whole much to really look for in Dos Santos in that one, but definitely John Star is shining bright. Next fight we had in Cape versus Osborne, and yes, Cape got a spectacular knockout, a little flying knee and whatnot. But on the other side, I feel like neither of these guys really in this fight, even Osborne getting knocked out and Cape getting the knockout. The fight was, like I said, too short. It was close. It was like 1 strike differential. And I feel like, Cape got a spectacular knockout. It was great that he got a win, and now he got some momentum on his side, which is always good. I still feel like he would lose to the same 2 guys he lost to before. And he can lose to a lot of the better fighters in his division. I feel like at this moment, But yeah, I feel like this moment, both guys should move laterally. Well, Osborne should take a step back, go down a little bit lower, and build some wins up. And Cape should move laterally, stick around the same level. Stop trying to challenge the upper echelon of these guys, the guy with a little bit more experience inside the UFC. I'm not saying Cape doesn't have high level experience, but right now I feel like his best thing to do is pick up some wins and just get his feet more wet in the cage and then go up to the top. He does have the skills to challenge anyone in his division. Right now I feel like he's going to be on the wrong side of a lot of decisions just with his style. And like this fight, again, it didn't really show anything necessarily new about him. Got to win, but nothing new about him. Probably got some money off this. Got to win. It's good and all, but didn't really say nothing new about either guy, to be honest. It did show that Osborne could be knocked out, but every man could be knocked out. So nothing new. Nothing new. But again, wins are good, but I don't feel like it really said anything all that new about Kate. Or anything all that bad about Osborne or anything. Except that was already known. Then the next fight we had in the strawweight division, Penne versus Karolina Kawakowicz. And this is the first fight where I went wrong, and I think I went pretty bad wrong right here. I was leaning heavily to Penne at first, and then I started looking into stuff. And then I think the biggest glaring error, like the biggest, dumbest error I made with this one, was saying the fight is tight is not a bad thing. But leaning to somebody just purely because who they trained with is not the greatest thing, especially when that person riding like a 5-fight losing streak, or a 3-4 fight losing streak. And Kawakowicz was riding a pretty significant losing streak. She had grappling issues, and Penne definitely had a clear grappling advantage. And just by training with Joanna Jędrzejczyk was not going to patch those holes in her game. So that was a dumb thing to lean to her just off that. And yeah, she might look good, decent training for the fight. But everybody's training up to the fight looks pretty decent. That's why they go in there with confidence, not going like, oh, dang, my training was so bad. Well, sometimes they are, but anyway, training with somebody 99 times out of 100 is not going to really help your chances of winning, because people can train with LeBron James. He's not going to make you a star athlete or star basketball player, at least not on an NBA level. He's not going to make you an NBA all-star. It takes a lot more than that. And riding a significant losing streak and your confidence dimmed. And even coming to the fight, Karolina, like how she did her little sit back, lay back on the cage. She looked timid when she was landing back against the cage. When they would call her name, she looked timid throwing punches. She just looked flat out there. And Penne fully capitalized out there and was able to tap her out. And even in the fight, she made some very amateurish mistakes out there, give up her back, attempting submissions. She really just completely disengaged from the grappling. Like, she really invited it. She saw Penne, caught Penne's kick. Penne fell on her back. And then she gonna stand over top of her, which allowed Penne to create a grappling situation instead of just disengaging. But even before, like the striking, Penne was out striking her prior to the grappling, even though they only struck for like 5 seconds, but still. Penne looked sharper, Karolina looked flat, but I think that fight, typically going forward, you should lean to the person that has the better momentum, and overall the better fighter at the given moment. And also, what did I think? Karolina, like not the best grappler, and even at her best, she's not a power striker or a knockout artist, so she's a volume fighter. So a lot of times, those fighters are going to get into grappling exchanges because they're throwing pillow punches, so they're going to fall in, which is going to create grappling exchanges regardless. And this should have just lent to Penne. She was savvy, she's looking sharp, and she's looking rejuvenated. So she was definitely the clear pick in that one, but I just leaned to Karolina because I feel like she was showing motivation and doing the right things, but momentum was not on her side, and Penne had a better skill set, and she had the momentum as well. Big factors. I leaned wrong in that one. It was a bad pick on my side, and that's where I went wrong with that pick. Then our next fight we had in the light heavyweight division, Alonzo Minifield versus Ed Herman. In this one, Minifield didn't get the first round knockout like I expected, but I picked him to win. And I think for him, for me, that's not that bad for me at all, but for him, it's something great. You know, you might feel like a knockout, first round knockout, spectacular knockout will get you 60K or whatnot. I feel like this will definitely be better for his career, to be able to look good for 15 minutes, dominate the fight, dictate it from start to finish. Yes, you didn't finish to materialize, but it answered at least one question about his cardio. His cardio's been a question. He answered that to a extent. Now we need to see it versus a fight where he's fighting somebody that's athlete, give him a competitive fight and see how he lasts, see if it's improved. In his last fight, he showed his jiu-jitsu, showed his wrestling improvements, and that was another big issue with him. So in his last 2 fights, he's been addressing weaker areas or questions about him and been answering them with flying, or solving them with flying colors and coming through with flying colors. So good win for Minifield. That's actually a much better win to me than him getting a first round knockout, to be honest. Now on to our next fight. We had a bantamweight division, Vince Morales versus Draco Rodriguez. In this one, it was a toss-up, and even at the end, it was a pretty close fight, but Morales won clear, to be honest. Close fight, but clear winner, Morales. I leaned to Rodriguez, really off not a lot. He don't really got much tape on him, definitely not relevant tape on him. I think he had like a very short contender series fight. He had a very short UFC debut where he got knocked out by Ayman Zahabi. I don't want to lean too much to MMA math, so that's another reason why maybe I fought back against MMA math so much that I just leaned to Draco Rodriguez, or maybe I saw that Draco Rodriguez had some pretty solid pressuring to his game, but he just didn't fight the best game plan. Like, what he fought was this made no sense. Why are you fighting on your back foot against a guy who cracked him when he's put on the back foot? You should be able to pressure him. You have the heavier hands, the better boxing, the better inside game. Push him back. Why fight on your back foot? I guess maybe he was still reeling from getting knocked out. You know, people get timid and they still worried about the knockout, so they start fighting with a mental lapse or whatnot, or some chip, something in the back of their head, and they start fighting a different way. And that caused him to lose. He still looked decent, still looked good. He's like a respectable fighter. But either way, none of these guys impressed me. And I just don't need to see a lot more from these guys. And if they fight anybody solid, I'm picking the solid fighter over them. It's not like cases like these guys show anything that would make me pick them over anybody, really respectable in the division. I mean, they're all respectable, but as far as somebody that's definitely going to do something in the division or can do something in the division, but as far as people that's going to be hanging around the bottom or stuff like that, maybe pick them in those fights, but even then be kind of questionable. But not impressed with either guy. But on Rodriguez side, I just feel like even when he was in this fight, when he did pressure, he had great success. When he pressured, he got takedowns every single time, or got close to takedowns, or set up other things. But on his back foot, he really ain't do much. He landed a couple clean counters, but again, not the right game plan. I think Draco Rodriguez can still have a bright future, but as of right now, I'm not the highest on him right now. Vince Morales, I feel like he is who he is. He might make a couple little, at most, make a couple little upsets here and there at most, but not saying nothing really from him. I think this is who he is, and I'm not all that impressed with who he is, at least at this level. Solid fighter, but as far as UFC and sticking around or rising up the ranks, don't really see it from him. And Rodriguez, I feel like he's going to need something. He's going to need some motivation. He's going to need something. He need to get his edge back because he clearly lost it. But can't really feel too bad about this pick. But yeah, but definitely going forward, I'm going to be looking at them a little bit different. Well, I'm already looking at Morales for who he is, but Rodriguez, I'm going to be looking at you a lot different going forward. Got to see something a lot different from you. You got to just probably pull off a shocker or something, because you probably be an underdog in your next fight. And then once you get that out the way, maybe you start going back to being that solid prospect. But it is what it is. Lightweight, in our next fight, we had Rafael Physio versus Bobby Green. In this fight, went how it went. Matter of fact, I feel like Physio did not look as good as I thought he would. I picked decision, but I thought he would look cleaner in this fight. But Bobby Green really won this fight, to be honest. I picked Physio to win, but Bobby Green won the fight. The judges felt he won. Not the Bobby Green. The judges felt Physio won pretty clear and without issue. It was no controversy. The fans felt like he won without issue with no controversy. But when you really look at this fight, Bobby Green was having that man missing real bad a lot. And the shots they were all getting boners over, he was not really landing it flush at all. I think in the second round he might have landed his cleanest shot, and that was like when Bobby Green was turning, he was able to catch him, and then catch him again against Cade a little bit. But that was the cleanest he ever really caught him. The kicks were really hitting arms, or just hitting air, and they were like, oh, he's doing kicks, he's landing. Like, how you even think somebody landing when they're clearly not even touching nothing? Like, it's hit and win. I know kick ain't making no slapping sound, or no thudding sound, or no digging sound when it's hitting air. So you had to, even the blind man and the deaf man can know that, and a man with no hearing and no man with no sense can know that stuff is not landing. So why y'all getting boners over it? But it is what it is. I picked Physio to win. I already said it in the lead up in a lot of Bobby Green fights that these people don't know how to judge striking. This is not boxing. It's not like fine science and people with real good eyes and stuff for striking. They just a lot of times value activity and aggression, even if it's not clean aggression or clean activity, or sloppiness over actual solid output. But yeah, I feel like Bobby Green won the fight and he won the war. Physio was barely able, and he was motivated. He barely even want to raise his hand. Felt like he lost the fight, but he was happy afterwards because he got his hand raised. But it is what it is. But Physio got the decision victory. I picked him to win, and you also gotta know what sport you are. You gotta know what your fans are. You know how they judge. So that's on Bobby Green. You gotta be more active. But I don't think he can have that edge it's probably gonna hurt his style more to try to be more aggressive, try to dig more, and probably make him more hittable because he can't be as laid back and as loose because he's gonna have to try to put more power behind his punches, which is gonna make him more open to be hit. He's not as loose, he's not as like water anymore. So at this point, he's like 34, so he's gonna be who he is to the end, solid fighter, but always gonna be on the wrong side of judges' decision. So that is what it is. And Physio got a decision victory. I'm not saying it was a robbery, definitely not, but I do feel like Bobby Green was a cleaner fighter, the cleaner technician, and more conservative and used the energy better, landed cleaner shots overall, better defensively. But you know how they judge, and Physio fought to how they judge better, and he won the fight. So, and I picked him to win, so win-win. Now to our next fight, we had into the bantamweight division, Yadong versus Kenny, and this is a fight I'm not feeling too bad about at all either. I feel like it was a very close fight. I feel like Song's improvements in wrestling defense played a big factor in this fight, and I already knew he was the better striker. So he made this slight improvements that was able to give him the edge in a close fight. So I can't feel too bad about it. Like, even hindsight 2020, I would still pick Kenny if I saw this matchup. Anytime I see a matchup that's close, I'm leaning to the guy that's going to mix it up more. Or a fight that's real tight and can go either way, I'm leaning the guy that could mix it up more. Unless the other guy give me a reason not to. Like, this guy's taking on offense like 100% or 99%. Or this or that, or his striking gap is just so huge or something, or he just has that fight IQ to make the right decisions. But I didn't see it like this, so I would lean to Kenny again. I mean, not if they fought again. Like, I'm talking about, you rewind time. Well, even then that don't make sense. But all I'm saying is, in fights similar to this, I'll probably lean to the guy that like Kenny in the matchup. Is what I'm saying. But yeah, I'm impressed with both guys in that performance. But I do feel like both of them still need some building to their career. Like, they're making improvements, making adjustments. Very close fight, very solid performance, very technical, very clean on both sides. But both guys feel like need about 2 more years of, just working and building on their skill sets. Because they still, I don't really see them matching up with the, the upper echelon of the division. Like, they could be firmly in that top 10, but that top 5 and really being in that title picture need some more work. And they're making the right improvements. In this fight, Yadong was the better man on the night, making improvements where they need to be made, and was able to get the split decision victory. So claps to both of them. And as far as that, I don't really feel too bad about that one. It was a bit of a coin flip. So I can't say like, oh, I did this wrong or did that wrong, because it's not really too much to really draw off that was a glaring error in predicting either or in that one. In the next fight, women's strawweight division, this was a glaring error in this one. We already know who both of these women are. It's not like they're fresh faces or a woman that are really making big improvements. Hill has made a lot of improvements in her skills, in her career, but she is a upper age of, she's not the youngest spring chicken. She's like, 34, 35. But she is still making improvements at this point in her life. Because she did come to the sport a little bit late, or a lot of bit late, but making improvements. But again, and Hill already kind of have a theme with her. Anytime she goes against a woman it's a big fight, or a fight where it's like a rematch. Well, it hasn't really been a rematch. This is her first rematch and she lost it. But a fight where a woman has either had a little bit more success than her, and it's her chance to really take their shine or beat them, and she does have the skills to beat them or should be in position to beat them. You got to expect her to come up short, or the judges to just not give it to her. In this fight, she just came up short. Torres outworked her. Yes, Hill was able to out-wrestle her this time, so it showed improvements, because in the first fight, she got out-wrestled real easy. But this fight, she out-wrestled Hill. She out-wrestled Torres. But Torres still outworked her on the feet. Outlanded her on the feet in this fight. But again, Hill just came up short again in big ones. And it's a trend, and it's predictable. It's not a case of, oh, this is like this. I just kind of lean to what ifs and like what should be instead of what is. And it is what it is. Like, it should have been Torres. It should have been no issue or no great thing, right? Especially with Torres coming in with some momentum now and on a 2-fight winning streak, and looking back, vintage, looking like herself again. And still a relatively close fight, but a clear fight that Torres won, and it should have been a clear prediction that Torres will win this by decision. And it was do I feel all that bad? Like, sometimes you gotta take a risk. Sometimes fights do come in case where momentum is not everything and historics is not everything in fights. So I don't feel all too bad about this fight, but definitely foreseeable. And with Hill, when it's already a theme, themes are very effective in sports, and you got to stick to themes. And when you try to lean against them, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna lose. You might get that one time where you look like the wizard and like everything. You pick that, but most times it's gonna be a case of where it's gonna pan out like Theme has panned out time and time again, the big moments, he'll end up on the losing end. She could beat those up and coming fighters, or these fighters that might go on to be somebody, but like maybe when they get them early, or get these fading fighters, or get these fighters that's just not that good. But as far as fighters with some theme, with some steam behind them or something, he'll gonna choke, or just gonna come up on the losing side. Whether it be the judges or her, she gonna come up on the losing side typically. But match her against these up and comers or these lower tier or middle, kind of on the lower end of the middle pack fighters, Hill will look good and thrive against them. But Torres at one point was a marquee fighter in this weight class. I feel like she's getting back to that, but do I think she's ever going to really be back there again? I don't think so, but I think she probably can claw her way back up to maybe like number 8, number 5 or something like that, number 6. But I feel like her best days behind her, to be honest. But they both look sharp and still look good, but definitely aren't the best, among the best in the division, like among the real best of the division at this moment. And I don't really see them becoming among the best. Then on to our next fight we had in the welterweight division, Luque versus Chiesa. And this one, I feel like it's not like a whole lot to draw from this one. I already knew that Luque had a great darts choke and great guillotines and great darts and great anaconda. So I don't know about guillotines, but anacondas and darts chokes, that's his bread and butter. He even said it, and I've seen it, so it's not like a case of anything new. And Chiesa has been stopped by, I think, a darts by Matador at one point, but I thought that was long ago. He improved a lot. But I feel like this one, more than anything about what Luque did, Chiesa got to look at himself. And as far as this fight, like, it's another fight where it was a coin toss on paper. In the fight, I feel like Chiesa made some bad mistakes that ended up in him getting submitted. And I don't think he defended the submission the best either, but I feel like it's more a Chiesa issue than a me issue, to be honest. Because, like, Chiesa took him down, but again, a theme of people trying to attack the submission and not just stick to the position. Attack the submission, but not work in the position. Like, he had one hook in and was too busy trying to jump for the rear naked choke, instead of maybe using that to bait him to defend and focus on defending the choke, and then while you sink the other hook and you could secure the position. Or maybe when Luque is rolling back to his back, maybe getting to a half guard and getting that lockdown position. But no, like, he was trying to work the position too much, and then instead of like letting it let it coast, let it ride. Patience. I feel like he was trying to go for a stellar performance and ended up getting himself losing a stellar performance on the other side of a stellar performance. You try looking for a stellar performance and you end up on the other side of someone else's stellar performance. Instead of, like, he got the takedown, was looking clean, was controlling pretty well without much issue, and I like that could have been the theme of the fight, but instead was looking for submissions and looking for that spectacular finish too much. And I think even in like his training, he should have had like 1,000 different access to that darts choke, or should have even saw when he fought for that arm, should have rolled to his back, like this, should have pulled guard right there, sat back down. It's not like Luque has some amazing ground and pound or amazing top guard control. He probably could have got a sweep there, took his time or something, or used a cage stand up. But now I feel like he was kind of maybe moving reactively. You know, sometimes you just, when you start training a little while, you start just moving without thinking. I think with Case, he was moving without thinking, what he was typically do. And even offensively, he was doing what he does in the gym. Like, he gets away with maybe tapping people out with only having one hook in, so he kind of tried to go for it. He felt good in that position. So he didn't he was trying to go for the hook at one point, but got away from it. By the way, I just felt like Chiesa made some mistakes in there and was just a little bit aggressive, and that cost him a loss. But can't feel too bad about that one. Then the Aldo one in the bantamweight division went exactly how I thought it would go. Aldo was just cleaner, longer, sharper, better, and prepared for everything Munoz had to offer. So, decision victory, predicted. The decision victory materialized and happened pretty much as I expected it. So, no issue there. Heavyweight division, nothing to say about that. Gane versus Lewis, or Lewis versus Gane, however you want to say it. And that one went just as I predicted it. Round, everything, method, just how I predicted. So I can't really say anything about that. But as far as for both of those fights, Munoz good, still got a good career behind him. Aldo got a good career behind him already, and probably a good one ahead of him. But I feel like Aldo still at this point, I feel like when he gets one of these good wins, just retire on him instead of trying to pursue it further. But you're a competitor, you want to keep pursuing it. But I feel like Aldo should retire when he gets a good win, just walk into the distance, walk into the stars. Munoz still got a good career ahead of him. Gane, I feel like he's a big threat for Ngannou, so Really looking forward to that. Derek Lewis is Derek Lewis. He'll have this setback up. Then the next thing you know, he'll be knocking someone else out, and he'll be right back here for a title shot or something. Like, this guy is always one punch away from a big win. But against Gane, a guy who's so defensive and so clean and so light on his feet, it just was a bad style for him, and it showed. Technical, clean, defensive minded, and just a sharper fighter. So that concludes the video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.